Hey, what's up, everyone? We're back with the fifth episode of Dad Reads a Bedtime Story. For those of you that haven't been following along, we're reading R.L. Stine's Goosebumps book, My Hairiest Adventure, and we're now on chapter 14. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Larry, what's wrong? Lily demanded. I couldn't speak. What's wrong with your scarf? Jared asked. Is it too tight? He tugged at the wool scarf around my neck. The scratchy scarf my mom made me wear because my great aunt Hildy had knitted it. I had forgotten I was wearing it. When my hand brushed against it, I thought, You look scared to death, Lily exclaimed. Are you okay, Larry? I nodded. Yeah, I'm okay, I muttered, feeling my face go red. The scarf was choking me, I guess. What a lame lie. But I had to say something. I couldn't say that I had mistakenly thought that my neck had sprouted fur. Larry, you've got to stop thinking about your hair. I scolded myself. If you don't, you'll drive yourself crazy. I shivered. Let's go inside, I said, wrapping the wool scarf tightly around my neck. I hurried to the boys' room to brush my hair before the bell rang. Gazing at my wavy blonde hair in the mirror as I brushed it, I had a horrifying thought. What if my real hair suddenly fell out, and the gross, prickly black hair grew in its place? What if I woke up one morning and my entire head was covered in the disgusting black fur? I took a long look at myself in the mirror. Someone had smeared soap all over the glass, and my reflection appeared to stare back through the hazy white streaks. Shape up, I told myself. I pointed a finger at my reflection, a smooth, hairless finger. Stop thinking about hair, Larry, I instructed my reflection. Stop thinking about it. You're going to be okay. The Instatan lotion has worn off, I decided. It had been several days since my friends and I had splashed it on ourselves. I had taken at least 3 showers and 2 baths. It wore off, I told myself. It's all gone. Stop worrying about it. I took one last glance at my hair. It was getting pretty long, but I liked it that way. I like brushing the sides back over my ears. Maybe I'll let it grow really long, I thought. I tucked the hairbrush into my backpack and headed to class. I had a pretty good day until Miss Shinling handed back the history term papers. It wasn't the grade that upset me. She gave me a 94, which is really good. I knew that Lily would probably brag that she got a 98 or a 99, but Lily was great at writing. A 94 was really excellent for me. The grade made me happy, but when I flipped through the pages, glancing over Miss Shinling's comments on my writing, I found a black hair on page 3. Was it my black hair? I wondered. Was it one of the disgusting black hairs that had sprouted on my hands? Or was it Miss Shinling's? Miss Shinling had short, straight black hair. It could be one of hers. Or else, I squinted at the hair, afraid to touch it. I knew I was starting to get weird. I knew I had made a solemn vow that I was going to stop thinking about hair, but I couldn't help it. Seeing this one stubby little black hair stuck to the 3rd page of my term paper gave me the shudders. Finally, I raised the term paper close to my face and blew the hair away. I didn't hear a word Miss Shinling said for the rest of class. I was glad when the bell rang and it was time to go to gym. It will feel good to run around and get some exercise, I decided. Basketball today, Coach Rafferty shouted as we filed into the brightly lit gym. Basketball today. Change into your shorts. Come on, hustle. I usually don't like basketball that much. There's so much running back and forth the entire length of the floor. Also, I don't have a very good shooting eye, and I get really embarrassed when a teammate passes me the ball and I miss an easy shot. But today, basketball sounded just right. A chance to run and get rid of a lot of my nervous energy. I followed the other guys into the locker room. We all opened our gym lockers and pulled out our shorts and t-shirts. At the end of the row of lockers, Howie Hearn kept shouting, "In your face! In your face!" Another guy snapped a towel at Howie. Serves him right, I thought. Howie is such a jerk. "In your face," I heard Howie chant. Someone shouted to him to shut up. "In your face, man, in your face." I sat down on the bench and pulled off my sneakers. Then I stood up and started to pull off my jeans. I stopped when I got to the jeans about halfway down. I stopped and I let out a low cry when I saw my knees. Bushy clumps of furry black hair had sprouted from both knees. Chapter 15. How come you kept your jeans on in gym? Jared asked. Huh? His questions caught me by surprise. It was the next day and we were walking along the slushy sidewalks, lugging our instruments to Lily's house for another band practice. You refused to change into gym shorts, remember? Jared said, swinging his keyboard case to his side. I was just cold, I told him. My legs got cold, that's all. I don't know why Coach Rafferty gave me such a hard time. Jared laughed. Rafferty nearly swallowed his whistle when you sank that 3-point jump shot from midcourt. I laughed too. I am the worst shot in the school, but I was so crazed about my hairy knees, so totally pumped, that I played better than I'd ever played in my life. Maybe you should wear jeans all the time, Coach Rafferty had joked. But of course, it was no joke. I ran all the way home after school and spent nearly a half hour locked in the upstairs bathroom, shaving the clumps of black hair off my knees. When I finally finished, both knees were red and sore, but at least they were smooth again. I spent the rest of the afternoon closed up in my room thinking hard about what was happening to me. Unfortunately, all I came up with were questions. Dozens of questions, but no answers. Sprawled on my stomach on top of the bed, my knees throbbed as I thought, why did my knees grow hair? I asked myself. I didn't spread any Instatan on my knees, so why did the ugly black hair sprout there? Had the Instatan worked itself into my system? Had the strange liquid seeped into my pores? Had it spread throughout my entire body? Was I going to turn into some kind of big hairy creature? Was I soon going to look like King Kong or something? Questions, but no answers. The questions still troubled me as I crossed the street with Jared and Lily's white frame house came into view on the corner. The sun beamed down above the two bare maple trees that leaned over Lily's driveway. The air felt warm, almost like spring. The snow had melted a lot in one day. Patches of wet grass poked up through the white. In the yard across the street from Lily's house, a half-melted snowman looked sad and droopy. My high top splashed through the slushy puddles as Jared and I carried our instruments up the driveway. Lily opened the door for us. She and Christina had already been practicing. Lily was wearing a bright red and blue ski sweater pulled down over pale blue leggings. Christina wore faded jeans and a green and gold Notre Dame sweatshirt. Where's Manny? Lily asked, closing the front door behind Jared and me. Haven't seen him, I replied, scraping my wet sneakers on the floor mat. Isn't he here? He wasn't in school again today, Christina reported. We've got to get serious, Lily said, biting her lower lip. Did you talk to Howie today? Did he tell you what his dad bought him? A new synthesizer, I replied, bending to open my guitar case. Yeah, Howie told me all about it. He says it can sound like an entire orchestra. Who wants to sound like an orchestra? Jared asked. He had a wet leaf stuck to his shoe. He pulled it off but then didn't know where to throw it, so he jammed it in his jeans pocket. If Howie sounds like an orchestra and we sound like 3 guitars and a kiddie keyboard, we're in major trouble, Lily warned. It's not a kiddie keyboard, Jared protested. I laughed. Just because you wind a crank at the side of it doesn't make it a kiddie keyboard. It's small, but it has all the notes, Jared insisted. He set the keyboard on the coffee table and bent down to plug it in. Let's stop messing around and get to work, Christina said, moving her fingers over the frets of her shiny red Gibson. What song do you want to practice first? How can we practice without Manny, I asked. I mean, what's the point? I tried calling him, Lily said, but his phone is messed up or something. It didn't even ring. Let's go to his house and get him, I suggested. Yeah, good idea. Christina agreed. All 4 of us started for the front entryway to get our coats, but Lily stopped at the door. Larry and I will go, she announced to Christina. You and Jared should stay and practice. Why should we all go? Okay. Jared agreed quickly. Besides, someone should be here in case Manny shows up. With that settled, Lily and I pulled on our coats and headed out the front door. Lily's Doc Martens splashed through a wide puddle as we made our way along the sidewalk. I hate it when the snow gets all gray and slushy, she said. Listen, all you can hear is dripping. Water dripping from the trees, dripping from the houses. She stuck out her arm to block my path and stop me from walking. We listened in silence to the dripping sounds. It's deafening, isn't it? Lily asked, smiling. The sunlight reflected in her eyes. One blue eye, one green eye. Deafening, I repeated. Lily can be pretty weird sometimes. She once told me that she writes poetry, long poems about nature, but she's never shown any of them to me. We trudged through the slush. The sun felt warm on my face. I unzipped my parka. Manny's house came into view as we turned the corner. Manny lives in a square-shaped brick house on the top of a hill. It's a great sledding hill. There were two little kids sledding down it now on blue plastic discs. They were going pretty slow since most of the snow had melted. We walked past them and made our way up to Manny's front stoop. Lily rang the doorbell and I knocked. "Hey, Manny, open up," I shouted. No reply. No sounds at all, just the drip, drip, drip of water from the gutter. "Hey, Manny," I called. We rang and knocked again. "No one home," Lily said quietly. She stepped off the stoop and moved to the front window. Edging up on tiptoes, she tried to peer in. "See anything?" I called. She shook her head. "No, the sun is reflecting on the glass. It looks dark inside." "There's no car in the driveway," I said. I knocked one more time as hard as I could. To my surprise, the front door swung in a little. "Hey, the door is open," I called to Lily. She hurried back to the stoop. I pushed the door open a little further. "Anyone home?" I called in. No reply. "Hey, your door is open," I shouted. Lily pushed the door all the way and we stepped inside. "Manny," she called, cupping her hands around her mouth. "Manny." I stepped into the living room and gasped. I tried to speak, but I couldn't. I couldn't believe what I saw. Chapter 16. Lily grabbed my arm as we both stared around the living room. The room was totally bare. No furniture, no curtains, no paintings or posters on the wall. Even the carpet had been removed, leaving shiny, dark floorboards. "Where did they go?" I managed to choke out. Lily made her way through the back hall to the kitchen, also empty. Everything gone, an empty hole where the refrigerator had stood. "They moved," Lily exclaimed. "I don't believe it." "But why didn't Manny tell us?" I demanded, my eyes moving around the deserted room. Why didn't he tell us his family was moving away? Lily shook her head and didn't reply. The house was silent. I could hear water dripping from the gutter outside. "Maybe they had to move suddenly," Lily said. "Suddenly? Why?" I demanded. It was a question that neither of us could answer. I love to run. Not when I'm running from snarling dogs, but I do love to run. I like the way it gets my heart pounding, and I like the thud of my sneakers on the ground and the feeling of all my muscles working together. On Saturday mornings, I like to go jogging with my dad. He always jogs at Miller Woods along a path that curves around a small lake. It's really pretty there. The air is always fresh smelling, and it's a very quiet place. Dad is tall and lean and pretty athletic. He used to be blonde like me, but now his hair is mostly gray, and he has a big bald spot on the top. He jogs every morning before work. I think he usually jogs pretty fast, but on Saturdays, he slows down so that we can run side by side. We usually jog without talking. That way we can concentrate on the scenery and the fresh air. But this Saturday morning, I felt like talking. I had decided to tell Dad everything. All about the bottle of Instatan, all about the black hair that kept sprouting. As I talked, I kept my eyes straight ahead. I saw two big crows float down from the clear blue sky and perch side by side on the bare limb of a tree. The crows cawed loudly, as if talking to us. The lake sparkled brightly as Dad and I followed the curving path around it. Small patches of ice bobbled in the blue-green water. I started at the beginning and told the whole story. Dad slowed down a little more to listen, but we kept jogging as I talked. I told him about finding the bottle of tanning lotion and how we all splashed it on ourselves as a joke. Dad nodded but kept his eyes straight ahead. "I guess it didn't work," he said, sounding a little breathless from running. "You don't look too tan, Larry." "No, it didn't work," I continued. "The bottle was really old, Dad. It had expired a long time ago." I took a deep breath. The next part was the hardest to tell. "It didn't give me a tan, Dad, but something really weird started happening to me." He kept jogging. We both leapt over a fallen tree branch. I slipped over a pile of wet leaves, but quickly caught my balance. "This weird hair started growing on me," I told him in a shaky voice. "First on the back of my hand, then on both hands, then on my knees." Dad stopped. He turned to me with a worried expression on his face. "Hair?" I nodded, breathing hard. "Black hair, thick clumps of it, very rough and spiky." Dad swallowed hard. His eyes grew wide with surprise, with fear, with disbelief. I couldn't tell. But to my surprise, he grabbed my arm and started to pull me. "Come on, Larry, we've got to go." "But Dad," I started, holding back. He tightened his grip and pulled harder. "I said we've got to go." he insisted through gritted teeth. Now. He tugged so hard he nearly pulled me off my feet. Dad, what's wrong? I demanded in a high, shrill voice. What is it? He didn't answer. He pulled me back along the path toward the street. His eyes were wild. His whole face was twisted into a tight, frightened scowl. Dad, what's wrong? I cried. Where are you taking me? Where? Oh, this is a good one. All right. We'll stop right there, and then tomorrow we'll pick up on chapter 17. Everybody, thanks for being with us.